thing that is nice is to be able to be outside and to have someone leading the guitar and worship. I will say though, I know these guys are looking forward to time to get to the building. How many of you had a chance to meet Chance so far? He's looking forward to playing actual drums. He's tired of playing a box, as he puts it here. And but to still have them and just to see them as a couple doing what we do believe that God probably has prepared for them, and just to lead in their ministry together. It's just good to have them out here. It was brought to my attention, I did forget to ask or announce that the shower, the baby shower for Shane and Pam Piper. You want to explain a little bit more of it? I know it's virtual, it's a little different, but can you tell them a little bit more of what that was?
Just bring diapers to our house or our church.
Just bring diapers.
Diapers or wipes.
Diapers or wipes. Sounds pretty exciting. Bring diapers or wipes to our house or to the church. Not for us. We're not collecting for the next round. This is for Pam and Shane and the new baby that's on the way. So I know that it was put out on Facebook. We've already received some, but just as we prepare for another arrival, another new one, they got that started, just a kind of a virtual diaper wipe shower. So we just want to remind you of that. And if you're wondering if we're ever around, send a text or just bring it. And honestly, you can just leave the diapers on the porch. Nobody's taking them. So just leave them there, and we'll make sure we get them to where they need to go. Or like I said, the office will be open now from 9 to noon, from Mondays through Thursdays for sure. So if you want to run it by at that time, you can drop them off there with Janine in the office. The other thing that was brought to my attention was, I guess in my prayer, it made it sound like our Hill City family has COVID. I want to clear something up. Do they have COVID? No, we don't think so. But Hill City has been hit hard. So the folks are not here today because they felt like it would be smart not to show up being in Hill City. If you haven't heard, there's like 90 to 100 people in quarantine in Hill City right now. The case is going up. It all started with this deal in Moreland, a vacation Bible school, ironically, where it started. So they decided it would be best if they did not come today just to be safe, not, if something was going on. So we did want to make it clear in case it sounded to you like they thought that I was saying that they had it. Let's pray for them. They're not here to protect. They're not here because they want to protect us and just make sure. So they, at this moment, we don't think have it, but it is around there, and they're around there. So, we live in small towns, and they don't know. So just wanted to clear that up for you also, just to make sure we didn't start a rumor that didn't exist. I did want to speak today to our graduates, but I do want to tell you this is for everybody. Maybe you're one of our younger ones. It's not at graduation time yet. Your day is coming, but what I want to share with you today can actually should start now, or maybe you graduated 50 years ago. Actually, I'm curious, has anybody graduated 50 years ago? This would be my 25th graduation anniversary, whatever they're called.
What about more
reunion.
than that?
Man, I can't think of the name of it. What's that?
How about a lot more than that?
More than that. Anybody graduate 60 years ago? Well, not that much more? More? 70. Do you remember? Anyway, even if, how many years since you graduated? You seem to be, does somebody have their hand up for longer than 70? Anybody more than 70 years? Okay. Do you know how long ago it's been?
Graduated in 55.
He graduated in 55. So somebody do the math really quick.
65.
Hey, wait, actually, I was going to say our high school graduates need to show us how their math education was right now. They graduated in 50. That's not hard. It's 2020. Just take it by 5. Anyway, did you have your hand back here for longer?
58. No.
Oh, graduated in 58.
No, 58 years ago.
54, you are beat.
No,
58 years.
Oh, 58 years ago. Okay, wow, okay.
I actually think.
Did you graduate in 52? You guys are all confusing me with the 50s now.
Graduated
Graduated 52.
Graduated in 52. That's a lot of years, okay? And I say that because even with that in mind, what I want to share today is also for you. It doesn't matter, even though I'm talking and sharing this with those as we get ready to send them off with this graduation, it doesn't just apply to Cooper and to Gracie and to Clay and to Colby. That's not all that this message applies to. It applies to all of us, whether it's been so many years or whether we're not even there yet, what I want to share today, I think, is important for all of us to hear again. But I started with something I think of every year at this time. It's kind of a fable that is probably fairly more well known than I even realized when I first heard it. But every year at this time, I thought of it yesterday at graduation. Gracie Fawnenstill, in her opening talk, where she did a great job in communicating at the beginning, she brought up the idea that we will always be eagles. We'll always be Trigo eagles. No matter what happened at the end of our time, no matter how our year ended this last year, we'll always be Trigo eagles, and we know that. But it's that whole thing of being eagles where this little fable, this whatever story is that's come up, just always comes to mind when I'm at graduation. And it's the story of a farmer who went out one day and he found an eagle's egg that had fallen from the nest and was laying in a field. It wasn't broken, it wasn't destroyed, he still thought it had a chance, so he took the egg and he brought it home, and he didn't have any eagles on hand, but he had a lot of chickens. So he took the egg and he stuck it with all the chickens and with their eggs, to hope that maybe they could help nurture and get it ready and hatch that egg. And over time, it worked. That egg was in there with the chicken eggs started hatching, and eventually the eagle egg hatched along with them. And that little eaglet got to grow up with a bunch of chickens. And he got to spend his time with a bunch of chickens that were there. And as he grew up with those chickens, and he saw what the chickens did. And so he acted like a chicken. He was raised as a chicken. He would walk around and peck in the dirt like the rest of the chickens. When it was time to fly, it was just a few quick flurries of the feathers, and then he was back down. I mean, he did everything that a chicken would do. Someone came along one time and asked the farmer, "That doesn't look like a chicken with those things. What in the world is that? Like, that is the weirdest looking chicken I've ever seen. Acts like a chicken, walks like a chicken, sounds like a chicken, but does not look like a chicken." The farmer told the guys, because it's not a chicken, it's an eagle. I found the egg, and he told them the whole story of what happened. The guy said, "Well, you need to tell him he's an eagle." "No, he's not going to get it. You won't understand. He's not going to get it. He's been raised with chickens. He knows chickens. He can act like a chicken. He'll be just fine in life being a chicken." So he didn't say anything. And life went on, and this little eaglet grew into whatever a teenage eaglet is called now, a adolescent eagle or something, whatever it is, but grew up and continued to grow up in life. And eventually one day he was gotten to where he was a little wiser, he understood a little bit more, he was starting to comprehend things, he was understanding life a little bit more. And one day he was out just walking around, and he was pondering life like a graduate would do, wondering what his future would be. And he looks up and he sees this majestic bird just soaring through the air. And he was amazed at this bird. He was in awe of this bird and how well he could fly, and how it just seemed to glide along with the wind, hardly even flapping the wings, and just looked amazing up there. And one of his little chicken buddies was with him, and he turned to him and he looked at him and he says, "What is that? Who is that? That is an amazing looking bird." And the chicken said, "That is an eagle. That is the king of the birds. That is what every bird wishes they could be, but are not." And the eagle looked at it and just looked long, and there was something inside that eagle that said, "I can be that. I want to be that." There's something that was drawing that eagle, and he said, "But so can we do that?" And he looked at his chicken friend and he says, "No, man, no. Because that's for eagles, but you're just a chicken." And the sad part of the story is the chicken believed. And he listened to him, and he lived the rest of his life, though he was an eagle, acting like a chicken. And every year when graduation comes up, because obviously we are the Trigo Golden Eagles, that story just comes to mind when I watch senior after senior after senior walk across the stage, or this year the track, whatever it's on, and receive that. And I just wonder, do they realize the potential? And no, not just because they're a Trigo Golden Eagle from Waukegan, but just as a young person created in the image of God, literally at the beginning, knit together in their mother's womb for 9 months or 8 months or 10 months or however long they were in there in that particular case, but literally stitch by stitch, knit together by God in their mother's womb. Do they realize the eagle potential that they have? Or are these guys going to listen to what's said all around them and be told, no, man, you are whatever they've been told, and live life as a chicken? I wonder that every year, and that comes to mind. And when I want to encourage you three, because again, I don't know if they'll see it or not, so I'm going to keep saying three, but Colby's in the middle of this. I'm going to say it now. But those three that are here today especially, I want to encourage you three to remind you that you were created to be eagles. And I don't just mean Trigo Golden Eagles, but created to live life as eagles. In fact, Isaiah the prophet said, that's kind of how when we trust in the God that created us, that's almost how we're viewed. He actually used the word. He says, those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. You know, even hearing those words come out of my mouth, some people are going, well, we shouldn't tell people that because they may be disappointed. But that's the chicken talk in us. Keeping people from being who they were created to be. I want to remind you three, you were created to be eagles. Don't live your life as a chicken the rest of the way out. Don't walk forward to the rest of it just listening to those around you that tell you that, no, man, that's the king of mole, that's for someone special, that's that, but you were a chicken. You were born, in many ways, into a chicken world, into a chicken coop, it feels like, at times. But you were created to be an eagle. And like I said just a minute ago, not just you, but Isaac, you too. And Micah, you too. Jennifer, you too. Jim, you also. Those that have been graduated a while ago, those that just started, we were created by God and together to put our hope in Him and soar on wings like eagles. We need to be reminded of that. We need to hear that more often. Now there's a way that we experience it, and that's what I want to take just a few moments reminding you of today, because it's really quite simple. I was thinking, how can I encourage them to go live in their eagle status? How can I send them out and say, here you go, here's how you go, and you get to experience living like an eagle. You get to have this opportunity. And I couldn't come up with anything real good on my own. I probably could have come up with 3 or 4 different points that would sound okay. But I was taken back to someone who already gave me advice on how to do this years and years and years ago. And I'm going to ask you if you would open to Psalm chapter 1 on your phones or in your Bibles or whatever you brought. We're going to look at this advice together. Uh-oh. Oops. We're going to look at this advice. This advice together. And hear what it says. Psalm chapter 1. Look at the very first psalm that we have. If you go through and read in the Psalms, there's a lot of them. And the Psalms carry many, many different kinds of purposes. Some are psalms of worship, some are psalms of lament, some are psalms of hope, some are just telling a story. But there are some that were written with the idea of giving advice, of preparing people, of sharing wisdom and passing them along. And when you study those that study this, you find that this is one of those where the psalm that was written, they aren't even quite sure who wrote this psalm. There's a lot of different ideas on here, but they're not exactly sure who was the author of it. But they get a pretty good idea that the writer of the psalm was writing as a teacher of wisdom. And what they were trying to get through to us was a piece of wisdom and a way to instruct men and women on how to live life. And I think as we look at it, it's how to live life in order to access and put out that eagle opportunity that we have in there. So here's what he says, and he starts with a word that can either make us cringe or get us excited, but right off the bat, and this is where the eagle part comes in, he says, blessed is. So right off the bat, he's saying, hey guys, you want to live a blessed life, or what we call an eagle life today, you want to experience what you're able and capable of experience, what you were created to experience. Here's where we go. He starts with these words, blessed is the one who does, and he goes with the negative first, not do some things. Blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers. but instead whose delight is in the law of the Lord, and who meditates on his law day and night. That person, the person who does this, he says, is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever they do prospers. But those wicked that he was talking about, saying that they don't walk in step with, he says, not so the wicked. They are like chaff that the wind blows away. Therefore the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For the Lord watches over the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked leads to destruction. Right here in this simple little Psalm chapter 1, first chapter in the whole thing, he gives us the simple, whatever you want to call it, way of going about being able to live in this eagle status. And it really breaks down into two things. And these are what I want to share with you guys as you go today, as you head out into the world, out of the Wakini bubble. First of all, remember that you have the opportunity to live a life that is blessed. I love that he starts with blessed is. He doesn't hold back. Again, because we're scared to talk about it in the church, because it has been twisted, it has been manipulated, it has been turned into something that it's not, it still does not take away from the fact that we have an opportunity to live a blessed life. Now, blessed and happy don't always go hand in hand. Happy is more of a feeling. Blessed is more of a way of life and an understanding and a viewpoint. And we do have that opportunity available to us to live a blessed life. And what I'm calling a blessed life today is live the eagle life, the life for which we were created. To be able to soar on wings like an eagle, as Isaiah talks about. We have that opportunity in front of us. So I love, the first thing we need to understand is he goes, you do have that opportunity, but the first thing he tells you to do is to steer clear of those who do not have the mind of Christ. That is not their aim. The first thing he's warning them is to steer clear of those that don't have that same mentality, that who's playing the role of that of that chicken that says, no, that's not you, you're just a chicken. You need to live this way, you need to do this. This is what we're used to. This is what works. This is how you get your food. This is how you go about it. Whatever it may be. In this case, he's saying, does not walk in step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers. If you want an opportunity to really start living this eagle-blessed life, think about who it is you're associating with and listening to and taking in and applying to your life. Because if you go out, or if any of us go out, and take in the advice and the direction and the wisdom and all that stuff that comes along of those that are would be what these guys are calling the wicked or the sinners or the mockers, or what I'm just calling those that don't have the mind of Christ, that are giving advice that are opposed to that, how are you going to experience it when that's the advice you're taking? Be very, very, very careful of what you're listening to and who you're associating with and the advice that you're taking in. Because that is the first very simple, very real step to whether we get to lead towards the direction of the life we were created to live or take us away from it. What if that eagle would have listened to the guy that showed up and said, hey, this thing's an eagle and can do that, instead of listening to the chicken in his life? I'm getting more and more to the point that when I meet with people that come and they're struggling in life and things have happened to them, you start asking questions. Usually, if you go deep enough and you ask enough questions, you can go back to realizing they got advice or wisdom or direction or whatever from somebody in the past that led them in that direction. They didn't just wake up one day usually and go, you know what, I think I want to make this bad decision and go this route. Somehow they got associated with someone or something they walked in the way of, they stood in the way of, they sat at the table with those who had a mind opposed to Christ. And it's easy and it's scary how easy we can get there. A lot of times it begins when we start entertaining the ideas that they're throwing out there. We start hearing these things that are different than what our simple little minded people that have been growing us up, called our parents, have been teaching us this whole time. Or our pastors or our friends or our teachers or whatever. And these guys are smarter because they're more educated and they got more books and they've got all this stuff. And we start entertaining their thoughts and their ideas to the point that we dwell on them a little bit more. And then eventually we start maybe acting on them, or if they're friends that have lived more life than we do and have these secrets to life that, to be honest, we start hearing that, we start going, that sounds more realistic than that crazy stuff that I was taught. And before we know it, we're doing a little bit of that, and then all of a sudden we're doing a little bit more of that, and the next thing we know, we're in a trap. And we're caught, and we find ourselves in a position in life that is living like a chicken and not like an eagle. And it all began with what we listened to, who we associated with, what we decided to take in and believe. That's why more and more I believe Paul's words when he says bad company corrupts good character. Because it's just true. I'll bet if you know somebody who's in a tough situation, who's made some choices that weren't good and they're caught up in it, go ask some questions and keep digging back, and you're going to find that somewhere they heard advice, or they sat with somebody, or they took in something that led them to that place. They listened to something. And I share that with you because it's all over out there. And a lot of times for the moment it looks good. Maybe you saw some results that looked good or felt good or tasted good or whatever at the time, but eventually it comes back to bite. And we're in trouble. And I share that though because it's all around us, and I think it's so important as we go that we make it a priority to consider who we're walking with, standing with, and sitting with, and what we're taking in. More and more and more, it's getting more and more bold where it's pretty obvious. People aren't afraid to say it. They aren't afraid to show it. But it's out there. When we recognize it, are we going to continue to walk and stand and sit in it and listen to it? Or are we going to do what he says and steer clear of that? I can tell you, last weekend we were in Kansas City at my brother's house in his little resort that he has in the backyard. Spent the weekend there, and it was nice. Actually, saw my mom and dad swim. That was weird, but it's been a while, but it was fun. Mom even swung a baseball bat in the pool. That's really going crazy. We had a great weekend. Coming home, I was just kind of getting tired of listening. Well, actually, we were there when Patrick Mahomes signed his deal. You want to be in an area where you get a lot of opinions and everything, but there's a lot of excitement. So for a long time, I was just listening to all the talk on that, but I got bored with it. And so Leanne had put in her earphones. The kids were doing whatever they were doing. Caden, I think, was sleeping again. Morgan was probably playing on something on the drive home. And I thought, you know what? I've been just kind of stuck in this backyard. We haven't listened to anything. We haven't really watched anything. We've just been listening to the critique and all the stuff on the Mahomes deal, all that kind of. I just want to hear what's happened in the world the last few days. So I turned on the news on the radio. I don't remember which channel it was first. I'm pretty sure it was CNN. It's a satellite radio deal. I think it said CNN. And I listened to it. And I got to tell you, I could listen for like 2 minutes. And I was like, this is just the way I'm literally mocking. Like, I can't take this. So I'll listen to Fox News. Maybe I made it 2.5 minutes and felt the same way. Like, forget this. This is ridiculous. We literally are sitting here mocking everything going on. Trying to make people upset. There was no peace after about 5 minutes of listening to it. In fact, Leanne actually took her earphones out and goes, what are you listening to? Put it back in. All I wanted to do is hear what was going on. But it's getting so bad no matter what you listen to. It's not the mind of Christ. And we can get sucked into it. We have to be careful about what we're taking in. Because what he tells us is that kind of thing can lead us to living a chicken life. What he says instead is those whose delight is in the law of the Lord and who meditates on his law day and night, those are the ones who are blessed. In fact, he goes on to say this. He says, that person is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever they do prospers. according to the advice of this wisdom author, he says, don't listen, take in, walk in, stand in, sit in, all this other stuff. Instead, take in the law of the Lord, the direction, the heart. This is written in the Old Testament time. That's what they called it. Now we can just say the words of Jesus, the heart of Jesus, the words of the apostles, those that followed Jesus. He's saying take those in, meditate on them, sit at that table. Meditate is chew on them. The actual word is mutter them. Continue to share them in your own mind. Repeat those. And I know it says meditate on them day and night. There's not a person here who's just going to sit here and go, I'm going to sit at the table all day and just meditate day and night, day and night. What he's really saying is let those things be the thoughts that come back to you, not all the others. Don't continue to turn on and listen to something else. Listen to this. It's gotten a point for me, I actually kind of did it accidentally a little bit, where instead of trying to listen to all the stuff going on, there's an app, I don't even know who made it, but it's called Dwell. And it's just a Bible app where it reads it in a way that's actually worth listening to. And you can get it in different, I think there's a French guy on there at one time, and then there's another, there's a man, there's a woman, there's nice music. It actually is something that, even when I take my walk, it's just nice to walk and let that be what fills the mind instead of everything else. That's what he's saying to do. Meditate on that. Chew on that. Absorb that. Mutter that. Don't go around and mutter what the last, whatever hot take person was shared. Mutter the words of Jesus. Mutter the law of the Lord. Let that be what comes off the lips. Remind yourself and to remind each other what that is. That's what he is saying here. He says that person is like a tree planted by streams of water, who bears its fruit in season, whose leaf does not wither, and whatever they do prospers. We have had to, if you've driven by a yard, notice that we had to replace a tree that had died. You know what the number one thing is they told us when we went and bought that tree at whatever that place is called in Hayes? I said, is there anything special I need to do with this to keep this from happening again? Was there something with it? I said, do I need to put some certain kind of fertilizer on? Do I need to get some special soil? I said, do you have like pre-sodden soil? Do you have certain things that need to go there? They said, yeah, you can put all that on. You can put your fertilizer on there. I'd put some mulch around it, do all that kind of stuff. They said, you want to know the secret to keeping it alive? I said, what? Water. Water it. That will keep it alive and fruitful. And in its season, whatever it's supposed to do, that's what it will do. And that's what this author is saying the law of the Lord is like to us. It waters us. It keeps us going. And it grows us to be who God has created us to be. And it's really simple. He's basically saying, guys, you want to live this blessed life that is available for you? Think about who you're walking with, what you're taking in, what you're allowing to manifest itself in you, what you're absorbing, what you're standing in, walking in, sitting in. And don't do it with those that have a mind opposed to God, but take in the law of the Lord and meditate on that. It's so simple. But we're so distracted, it's hard to do. And so for these three graduates especially, I know it sounds boring, it almost sounds preacherish, but that's what I want to encourage you guys to do as you go, because I truly believe that you guys can make a difference. You are a special group of young people. No doubt in my mind. But I can tell you now, if you start going and listening to stuff that's opposed to what God has for you, if you start listening to the wisdom that the world has, and these things to do that are, that's really kind of, that's kind of dumb. That doesn't really work. This is more realistic, and this works slowly but surely. It's kind of a funny picture, but you're going to be clucking around like chickens, not soaring like eagles. And you're going to look back and go, what happened? And that's where it all started. So I encourage you to think about who and what you associate with as you go in Manhattan, Where's Ozark again? What? Joplin, Missouri, and then Hayes. You always have this available to you. And I believe if you'll take and you'll focus on that, and you'll let that be what absorbs more than anything and let everything else fit into that, you guys will soar. Dale and Jim and those of you that graduated 150 years ago, you'll still soar. You guys that are ways away from graduating that I'm trying to wake up right now, you will soar also. If you'll take that in. Bailey, Avery, Avriana, Morgan, Emery, Little Emery, and Rear. This applies to all of us. And it's so simple, but we struggle with it. So those are, as Carly comes to close us, those are my parting words to you guys as you go. Know that you have the opportunity to live life blessed. Soaring like an eagle, you really do. If anybody tells the opposite, they're a chicken. Just trying to make you one too. So Cooper, if Peyton keeps telling you that, we already know she's a chicken, okay? Don't listen to your sister. Gracie, Clay, guys, these guys, they aren't going to tell you they're not chickens. I know Peyton loves her brother. I don't know if you used to, but I know you do now. Yeah. They're going to try and pick you up. Listen to them. Listen to those that care. But more than anything, go back to this. And remember that this is always available. And here's the thing, if you're going, but the things I hear, they sound so wise. These people are smart. These people have understood things. That seems more realistic than what this says. Don't forget what Isaiah also says. People are like grass and flowers. You know what happens to grass and flowers? It withers and it fades away. But he says, the word of the Lord, you know what he says about that? It's been here forever, and it will be. They've tried to get rid of it. They've tried to burn it away. They've tried to do everything they could, and for whatever reason, this is still preserved for us today. And it's going to continue to be preserved for the rest of your lives, and the lives of your kids, and your grandkids, and anybody else that comes behind, because the word of the Lord actually endures forever. And that's why he says, meditate on that. Because when COVID's done, and everything else is done, there's going to be another thing that comes, and another thing, and another thing. And we're going to be given all kinds of advice, but the one thing that will stay the same through all of it is this one. And not only is it good advice, I want to leave you with these words. This is what another psalmist says about it. It says, this word that endures forever is perfect. It says, the law of the Lord is perfect. It refreshes the soul. The statutes of the Lord are trustworthy, making wise the simple. The precepts of the Lord are right, giving joy to the heart. The commands of the Lord are radiant, giving light to the eyes. The fear of the Lord is pure, enduring forever, and the decrees of the Lord are firm, and all of them are righteous. And then he finishes by saying, they're actually more precious than gold, than much pure gold, and sweeter than honey from the honeycomb. That's what these are for our lives. And they are the water that nourishes us and helps us grow and bear fruit so that somebody else can be blessed also. So as you guys go, I believe in you. You've heard it for a year, Gracie, if you've been with me. But I believe in Cooper. I believe in Gracie. I believe in Clay. I believe in Colby. I believe in Verlin. I believe in Michelle. Harry. But more than that, so does God. And he says, I created you and knit you together to be an eagle. But you want to experience it? Listen to what I say. The one that created you, listen to those words, not the chickens all around you that are trying to keep you from soaring. Listen to me. I encourage us to do that. So use this graduation Sunday, you guys, as you go. and the rest of us as a reminder. And let's be the eagles that we were created to be. Would you stand? Let's close. Carlos.